Hello everyone, welcome to the Tank Club. I'm TC Lee, and today we're going to be looking at the Necromancer tank. We're going to be looking at the Turning Tide set and the combination of those two, along with the major vulnerability Uptime. We've done some testing and we're going to show you the results right now. So for this we've done a 6-minute fight, and during this 6-minute fight you're going to see basically me maintain a major vulnerability Uptime on my own. So if we start the fight, we obviously go in with a 500 ult Warhorn. So as we start the fight, we're going to proc Turning Tide. So we've got the Turning Tide there. We're going to wait until we're under 5 seconds. So at the start of the fight, we don't activate Turning Tide straight away. So we have to block. We have to take a hit. Then we proc it. There's the Turning Tide. And then we've applied the vulnerability. Now we're going to proc Turning Tide again on cooldown. So as soon as the buffer's gone, we're able to get it back again. At the minute, we're running on a cooldown, which is going to end at the same time as the buff ends. So the cooldown is gone. The buffer's now gone. We take a hit. There's Turning Tide. We proc it. We use a 500 ult Warhorn. And then we've got 33 seconds of major vulnerability. Now, during this next phase, we're going to spam our ulti gain. And we're going to be trying to benefit by getting our ult back as fast as possible. And we're going to generate ultimate by using corpses and heroic slash and light attacks. We're going to consume the corpses with necrotic potency. Now you can see the major vulnerability is starting to tick down. We're at halfway through the duration. We've got quite a lot of ultimate back. And now we want to look at start getting our Turning Tide proc back. So we're on 4 seconds. So now we're going to take a hit. We've got Turning Tide. Now we're going to wait and we're going to proc it on cooldown. So now we've got another 8 seconds. We're farming corpses. And now we're off. We're on a cooldown now. So this is where we consider using. We're waiting. We're going to wait for this one. We're proccing it with a 300 ult Warhorn. There was a little downtime, but now we've got 22 seconds of major vulnerability. We're spamming corpses, and we're going to be able to hit this one on cooldown. So now we're on the cooldown of Turning Tide, and we're just light attacking and corpses and necrotic potency, heroic slash. 6 seconds left. We've got the buff. Turning Tide is there. So now we're going to hit it on cooldown. We're now going to be able to do a back-to-back on this one. So we've got 7 seconds left and only 3 seconds of cooldown. So we're going to be able to get this back again. So Turning Tide is now procced. And now we can use that on cooldown. So now we use it on cooldown with a Warhorn. And we've got our ult back again. We've used the Warhorn. We've now got a 17-second Turning Tide. 17-second major vulnerability, sorry. And now we're building ult again. We're going to be able to proc Turning Tide. We're on 7 seconds. The Turning Tide buff is there. We're going to wait till major vulnerability is nearly expired. And then we bash again. And we're going to get Turning Tide back again for another proc. So as you can see at the minute, we're using Warhorns with Nazaray and the Turning Tide set. We've got a little downtime there because we didn't get light attacked. And then we proc to hit that. Now we're probably going to use a Colossus ultimate to overlap it because we're going to be on the cooldown for Turning Tide. So we use a Colossus instead because we were on cooldown of Turning Tide, so we're not able to get that. So we use a Colossus to maintain the major vulnerability. But at this point, we've already gone over a minute or two without dropping the uptime, without using a Colossus. So we were using Warhorns, we were using Nazaray and Turning Tide, and we were over a minute there. So as we go again, we're on 5 seconds. We've still got the buff, 3, 2, 1, and we proc it at the very last second with a Turning Tide set there. Minor downtime because of we ran out. The Turning Tide ran out and we didn't proc it quick enough. So we definitely could have maintained it there. And we've got the buff again. We're using it on the last sec. We lost it. We used the Colossus to maintain it. So as you can see, we're just farming corpses. We're using a Colossus if we need to. We could use Horn if we've got enough ult back for Horn. Combine with Nazaray to get a higher Turning Tide proc. But the thing that we're looking for here is making sure we're not running out of major vulnerability at all. Okay, so we were using the add-on combat metrics for that particular fight, and this is the result. So as you can see at the top there, in combat 6 minutes and 3 seconds, we had, during the 6 minutes and 3 seconds, a 94% uptime with major vulnerability. We had Nazaray, and we had Turning Tide, obviously, and as you can see, huge uptime on major vulnerability. Now this is just with a Necro and Turning Tide, pretty much. At the start of the fight, for the first like 2 minutes or so, we were using Nazaray and Warhorn to benefit from extending the uptime. But then as that kind of dwindled down towards the end of the fight, for the final 3 minutes or so, we were using a Colossus to make up the lost time. So what this means, really, is you don't need anything more than one Necro using a Colossus in a group. It makes sense in a way to use Turning Tide along with a Necro Tank, because if you've got two different people, if you've got one person using Turning Tide and one person on a Necro, and you've got to constantly communicate telling them when to drop it because you're going to run out of Turning Tide, and you've got to also expect them to have generated their ultimate fast enough, that could be a bit of a challenge. Whereas if you focus both Turning Tide and the Colossus into one person, they can then focus on maintaining the uptime of Turning Tide, and then when the uptime is going to drop for whatever reason, they can use their ultimate. So it makes more sense to make sure the Necro Tank potentially would be the one to be using Turning Tide in this particular situation, just so that we're able to maintain the uptime, just so that they don't have to constantly be communicating. Use your ult now, use your ult now. And obviously, as you can see here, in a 6-minute fight, we were able to maintain it pretty much 100% by ourselves. So very strong. This is incredibly strong for this patch, guys. If you don't have Turning Tide, if you're questioning the use of Turning Tide, if you're not sure if to get it, this should be enough to kind of convince you. Otherwise, this is definitely going to be needed. It's a fantastic set. It's a meta set. It's a non-meta set. It's good for new tanks. If there's no Necros in your group, it's great for experienced groups. If you can maintain the uptime of 95% over the course of a trial fight, it's a great set. So make sure you grab this gear set, guys, for the Ascending Tide patch. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.